Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing. In fact, it builds quite a bit of character. In fact, you
Ain't no way he's doing the raise the price of rent. That'll just make me grind harder. Has he been crying? What is happening? Bro. Let's do a little bit of hog watch because I want to see some of these hogs defend the tariffs, okay?
I wish more people knew what kind of freedom that's going to give the American people.
Woo!
President Trump is trying to use these tariffs to get rid of taxes. And I'm telling you guys, he is very smart. That's how the country was ran before taxes.
I like that this is somehow good for her. Like in her mind, she thinks this is good for her. Oh my God, we are so stupid. Oh my God. The scariest part of the complete collapse of the global economy outside of all of that is the idea that Donald Trump is going to somehow make up a shortfall for gutting income taxes in its entirety, okay, which is like the last remaining progressive form of taxation that doesn't overwhelmingly burden individuals in the working poor, in the working class, as opposed to the wealthiest people in society. That's the one type of progressive taxation that remains, and it's already far too little in comparison to what it should be at, okay? And these people are going, hell yeah, no more taxes. It's going to be so much better. It's like, listen to me very carefully, okay? Tariffs will not be able to make up for the lack of income taxes. Part of the reason why it won't be able to is because, let's say, 30% of your salary is back in your pocket, okay? None of the programs that it funds at the state level will exist anymore. How do you build the roads? How do you pay for the school? How do you pay for anything? What are you saying? What do? We just Ancapistan? Like, what the are you guys saying? Even if you're like an MMT guy on the federal level, like, what are we doing in state level? Where so much of those taxes go back directly to that you are consuming, using all the public resources that you take advantage of that you think are magically there, but they're not magically there. You're funding it. So I guess we're just nuking America. Like, I don't know. We're doing nukes. We're BDSing ourselves. We're doing boycott, divestment, and sanctions from the United States of America to ourselves. If you are a working class individual, okay, and it looks like you got an old ass, like, I don't know, Chevy Silverado or whatever the you're driving, it's not like you're caked up, Deborah. You should not be excited at the prospect of no more taxes, no more income tax. Oh, could this hurt Israel in any way? I hope not. I sure hope not, chatter. Don't worry.
But who could be against getting rid of taxes? Who is against having more money in your pocket? The only people that could be against that are the people who has truly never paid taxes. Before you complain...
Brilliant, yeah. Well, let me tell you, okay? Listen, Deborah, I pay more taxes living in the communist nation state of California than you have in your entire life. I pay more taxes in 1 year than you do in your entire life. You've paid in your entire life. Let me tell you something. Okay, let me tell you something. As someone who does that, it is my patriotic duty to do so, even though most of it still goes to Israel. Not most of it, but you know what I mean. Even though a lot of it goes to the police force, which is the domestic military force, and a lot of it goes to military R&D. I understand that even if in the margins, there's like some of the funds that finally go to the schools, then it's worth it. And I wish we could restructure the way that we do our expenditures, both at the state level, both at the local level, and certainly at the federal level. But beyond that, even if a little bit of that is going back, like, it's good. That's a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. God damn, dude. People are crazy.
And talk about how terrible it is. Give him the opportunity to show you. I hope all you guys are having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day here in the state of Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky. You're in a 1997 Ford Explorer. You're never going to be able to get a new car, by the way. It's just not happening for you. And you're like, hell yeah, I love that we're not getting our taxes. Donald Trump's going to take my taxes away. Oh, my God. Oh, no. We are so freaking cooked, dude. We are cooked. Let's get to Benny Johnson, because I want to hear from the real Americans. I want to hear from the Americans of impact, the Americans of notoriety, brilliant Americans. What is Benny Johnson saying about these tariffs? Let's take a look.
Nothing. This is just the reality of life. You're gonna, like, were you young and dumb? How much money did you lose? Everyone loses money. Everyone loses money. It costs you nothing. In fact, it builds quite a bit of character. In fact,
Ain't no way he's doing the raise the price of rent. That'll just make me grind harder. Has he been crying? What is happening? Bro.
losing your character costs you everything. Losing your country costs you everything. There are things you can't get back. The government can print more money, and it will. Sadly, that's just the reality. It's fugazi. It's just that there's a boom and a bust every 10 years, and it's been that way since the invention of modern markets in the 1600s. The Dutch crash of 1649. You ever heard of it? It's just the way that it works. It's the way that like monetary policy has always worked. There's going to be ups and downs, especially as the table.
Oh my God. Yeah, look at the Great Depression. It just happens and it's fine and it's okay. You shouldn't say that unimaginable pain that comes out of that is anything but a character building moment. It's just simply an opportunity for you to learn how to make water soup. That builds character. Ketchup sandwiches, a character building operation. Think about that. Amazing to think people like this have friends that don't say, "What are you talking about, dude?" Well, he doesn't have any friends, just dick appointments.
If your town gets hollowed out and your entire neighborhood gets addicted to opioids and your steel mill shuts down and your farmers can't grow crops and there's no more cattle ranchers, there's no more cowboys, there's no more fishers, there's no more workers.
Hyperinflation, period of hyperinflation incoming, a entire generation of war veterans that have no jobs, okay, and no economic prospects, the erosion of due process and other civil liberties, a process in which you are expeditiously denaturalizing and removing people from their citizenship status. Welcome back, Adolf Hitler. This is what's going on, okay? Welcome back, zestier Adolf Hitler. Straight up. Hitler was zesty. Yeah, I'm saying Hitler was zesty. Trump is even zestier than Adolf.
This is West Virginia. And it's so sad that this was a factory that provided thousands of honest, good-hearted, steel-working jobs.
Dude, it's kind of funny that virtually every single person that has funded Benny Johnson is more responsible for that photo than anyone else that he's talking about here. Like the people that directly fund Benny Johnson so he can implement this right-wing project are straightforwardly the only people in American society that are responsible for this. More so than even the Democrats and the Republican politicians, okay? And certainly a lot more responsibility falls on their hands than random Malaysian and Chinese people, okay? It's not the Vietnamese government. It's not the Chinese government that did this. It is the people that he is tasked with defending that did this. His entire purpose on planet Earth is to sit there and make the remaining fans of his, the Benny Johnson heads out there, not recognize that reality by reshifting their attention to trans people or undocumented migrants or woke or whatever the new hot thing is to get mad about. That is literally all he does. That is what all Republicans do. That's what Democrats do as well in a different way. This right here, what you're watching right here in and of itself is also repurposing that same propaganda
For our fellow countrymen. And it was ripped. The guts of it got ripped out and shipped by people like Mitch McConnell so that they could make a couple extra points in their portfolio.
People like Mitch McConnell, brother, you are serving the same masters. You're a part of the same party. You have the same ideology. You have defended Mitch McConnell your entire career. These guys are insane.
To get stock swaps with Pan-Asian countries. And they sold out their countrymen, and I call that traitorism, actually. I think that's the definition of a traitor. You can lose money. You can lose points in your portfolio. It costs you absolutely nothing. You won't miss them when you're dead. Nobody ever had their net worth carved onto their tombstone.
Rip Benny Johnson out of this equation and put like Jason Unruhe in his stead, and the argument doesn't even need to change. It's who he is that makes this ridiculous, because what he's saying is not ridiculous. What he's not saying, on the other hand, what he's omitting is the part that is disingenuous, okay? Because yes, Mitch McConnell is responsible for this. Yes, the Democrats are responsible for this, but they did this at the behest of capital. That is the major problem here. Benny Johnson, who has defended those masters and has defended those interests his entire career, is now making a heel turn because he's playing catch up and trying to defend Donald Trump's decisions. But what he's saying is not wrong. The problem is it should be anti-fascist, anti-capitalist, worker-backed party that is supposed to be a counterbalance against the reactionary, hyper-capitalist forces in this country, and we don't have that. So in the absence of that, the absence of the Democratic Party representing that, you have these Republicans try and fill that void.
What will matter is preserve your nation for your children.
Okay, never mind. This part is also white supremacist callbacks. He said what really matters is, did you preserve your nation for your children? He's doing 13 words, not 14. You know what I mean? Just one word missing from that. The word that's missing is white. That's it. That's the famous 14 words that he's doing a callback to without saying white.
Did you view your country as something more than just an economic zone and tax cattle and slaves to China? Put that up, President Trump. No crying in the casino. Is it really? I don't care. It's too good. The final point I'll make on this is, who's the slave and who's the master?
He's like, we must remember the dialectic. The bourgeois capital-owning class has designed our political economy to suit their purpose. This inherent contradiction will inevitably get to a point where it's unmanageable. I'm Benny Johnson, and I approve.
Your pharmaceutical and automobile and phone, all the wires in your home, every electronic in your home, if everything that you use in your life is wholly and totally built by a foreign power that hates you, then you're the slave. You've always thought of America as the master of the world or as like an empire, but it's not. Not if we are totally dependent and on our knees before these third world goblin dictatorships. So it's time for a total reset. It's time for them to know who's boss.
These guys went from the Great Reset is happening by the World Economic Forum to the Great Reset is happening and it's good.
And it's time for us to be the master once again. That's the point of this country, actually, to be the master of our own destinies.
A somber tone from Benny Johnson. Very different attitude, very different approach. Now let's look at the other side of the Republican Party who hasn't forgotten who pays their checks. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is having a moment where he will go back to his classical liberal ways, okay? Ben Shapiro has not forgotten where his bread is buttered, and he is also ideologically consistent, and he's not going to play catch-up and try to defend Donald Trump's indefensible policies, at least now. He will in a couple months. He will. But for the time being, he's going to be like, this is stupid. This is incredibly dumb. I hate it. And the reason why he's doing that is because he is a real free trade guy. He does believe in it. Just like the Rand Pauls of the world believe in it. Just like the former Republican Party actively believed in it and defended these policies because they understood that this was truly beneficial for the capital-owning class, even if it completely gutted the American manufacturing capabilities, the American labor force. It was fine because profits were sky high. Profits were sky high, and they never thought that China would be able to take advantage of the situation with redistributive policies, with even development, with rapid expansion, with rapid urbanization. They never thought that China would be able to improve its material realities and not only be a competitive force, but one that could even dominate the United States of America in the global marketplace. That is precisely the reason why these guys entertain the notion of moving manufacturing overseas, specifically to China, the Genghis Gambit, without little care or consideration for what that might do to the United States of America, because they never gave a shit about their countrymen.
It was, in fact, Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. one of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
Bro got 99% tariff on wet pussy. Oh, no. Oh, that's insane. That's an insane statement, chatter. It's correct, but you shouldn't say it. Now let's get back to Fox News and how they're coping.
Now, there are some signs that the president's prescription might work. General Motors announcing plans to boost production of light-duty trucks in the U.S., announcing that it is hiring several hundred temporary workers as the auto industry...
It might work. Dude, by the way, I'm not trying to dunk on North Korea here at all, but there is an analog here, okay? I'm sorry. Whenever I hear a Trump administration spokesperson talk about the glorious leader, it immediately reminds me of the wonderful old lady that Kim Jong-un famously gifted an apartment complex to in Pyongyang. They have the same exact energy. They're speaking English, but it even has the same like Korean intonation. Like the way that they're even like saying the words has that like like the what's the term for it, like they're saying it with their chest. It's coming, the noises are coming out of their bellies almost. The cadence, yes, it's awesome. It's called pansori in Korean. Okay, that's what it's called. I love it. I personally think it's awesome. I hope Donald Trump also does like these parades as well. I do like parades. I love parades. I think they're gay as but like military parades are kind of cool. And the other thing that I like is, if the military, instead of like doing death and destruction, built and then did parades, I'd be happy with it. And then also the other thing that I like is like ginormous statues. And I've talked about this before, like people get mad at me for this. People think this is a bad take, but I think like giant statues of leaders are very cool. Like they just look cool in general. So if Donald Trump does that stuff too, I want that. Like I want that. And then they'll, given that he's a real MAGA communist, they'll also embalm him as well when after his passing. No, I don't like air shows. Air shows are not cool. Parades are cool because like it's right there in front of you. It's like something you can immediately see. I feel like air shows are not as cool. I don't really think about it in the same way. I don't know. I think air shows are kind of whack in comparison to like military parades where they're like marching side by side. You know what I mean?
Bill Ackman, who is the billionaire hedge fund guy, he said, my advice to foreign leaders is that if you have not already
Bill A. Packman had another statement that was really funny where he was like, Mr. President, please don't tariff China. Please don't tariff Israel. That was hilarious. He's like, Mr. President, please get Bill.
Because it's not a matter of just plugging it in, turning on a machine.
Right.
You actually need skilled people to do it. So if you're going to tariff 25%, let's say, coming from Vietnam, right away they almost become insolvent, especially if you took on debt after the pandemic to keep your company alive. So there's so many different elements to it. You could sincerely want to bring your business back. But America right now says, I'm sorry, all we have is vacant warehouses where factories used to be, or we were never good at it.
You don't say. This is why Brian Kilmeade is a fake friend. He's always been a fake friend of Trump. This is why he played baseball with Ron DeSantis, like Ron DeSantis was his dad. This is what he was worried about. And now he's just like trying to manage the situation while not getting fired from the regime propaganda outlet.
Ethan Lane, the senior vice president of government affairs, exporters, said, doesn't love tariffs, but understands what Trump's doing.
Nobody who imports or exports likes tariffs, us included, right? This is not a tool that we would pick if we had other options. But the president makes a very good point that for a very long time, we've had the raw end of a lot of these trade deals. You know, in the case of the beef industry, we've been used as, trade bait or a bargaining chip in some of these international relationships. And it's led to some really lopsided relationships. And our hope here is that the president can use use this tool to square up the deck and get us a little bit of a better deal with some of these trading partners so that we're not balancing the backs of these different trade.
You know, of course, this guy is saying it. It's like one of the areas of surplus that they can actually force other countries to purchase. Trump is going to go back to every one of these like European nations and be like, you have to lower your restrictions on what kind of food is allowed and only purchase American beef, I guess. Everyone has to eat the hormone jacked beef that we sell. Everything is burger.
Yeah, I think he highlights a point, Ainsley, that I think, you know, shouldn't have to be highlighted is they don't want tariffs. This is not something that these communities want, but they're saying they're getting screwed over. And why are we accepting products with no tariff on it, and the other countries are putting tariffs on our beef? And I think that's what it's gonna come down to. All these mom and pops, all these local businesses, whether it's the steel, the farmers, all the other producers, they're saying that it needs to be some give and take here.
Yeah, it needs to be free and fair, and that's what Donald Trump says.
It needs to be free and fair. I guess the free trade agreements that we did prior was not free nor fair, which is true. They weren't, but not in the way that these ass are fucking talking about it.